thanks everyone for joining the webinar. Today is the first of our public webinars, where we're going to, essentially the idea of this webinars came about as an opportunity to every month to first of all kind of share updates across each of the clubs of our Rotaract clubs in London, but also to also spend some time to share some kind of good ideas or skills that will be beneficial to managing and running our club in London. So, this webinar is an introduction. So I'll be running through a couple of the projects and services we've got planned for the year. But the subsequent webinars, we will have the opportunity to invite, external guests for them to share their experiences. So without any further ado, I say we get cracking. But before we get started, I just want to quickly run through some house rules. First of all, this webinar is a live broadcast and will be recorded. So please be respectful of the comments that you make during the webinar. Second of all, do keep your mics on mute unless you've been kind of asked or called upon to talk. Also, in terms of questions, please feel free to type in the chat box any questions that you may have, and I'll address this at the end of the webinar. And finally, all the documents that are shared during the webinar, as well as the video itself, will all go up on our YouTube channel, which is where you will be watching this webinar if you are on live right now. So yeah, the video and recording will go up on Rotaract London TV, which is our YouTube channel. All right. So today we are going to cover a couple of things actually. So first of all, just a quick run through in terms of what are the projects and events that have been going on in the Rotaract Club throughout September and October, and a happy November to my folks as well. Second of all, as I mentioned, this is kind of an introduction as well to Rotaract London, our district. So I'll talk you through some of our goals and objectives for the year. And I'm sure most of the club directors, so the board members as well as the district members, would have seen a couple of this information already. But please do exercise patience, and it's good to kind of reiterate as well what we are striving for. So I will talk through what our goals and objectives are. Also a couple of the projects and services, and who are the people responsible for kind of leading this and delivering it in terms of the how. And then we'll wrap up with a discussion topic around kind of how to retain new guests and potential members, which did come up, quite recently. So it's something I thought I would share some of my 4 quick tips with you guys. So first of all, I say we get started with club updates, from September and October across our different clubs in London. So as you are aware, we have 4 main clubs, but we also have a couple of university clubs as well. So we've got HAGG, which is Hampstead, Hendon, and Golders Green. We've also got the newly chartered Canary Wharf Club. We've then got Wandsworth as well as Westminster. And a couple of our university clubs, we do have King's College London as well. And from some of the messages I've received, there may be even more clubs soon to spark up across London, before the year runs out. But let's see how that progresses so far. So I say, without any further ado, let's certainly start with Canary Wharf. So I pulled a quick snapshot from Facebook of what are the events, and some photos as well to show what they've been up to. I think it's we're all pretty happy and proud that Canary Wharf Rotaract Club has been revived and is back to life. And they recently, just a few days ago, had their charter presentation in London, and so that's a kind of a fantastic achievement to Carolina and her team as well, for kind of getting the club back on its feet. And as you can clearly see from what they've achieved so far, in just September and October, you can see over 5 club meetings. There's been a charity quiz night, which I heard was pretty fantastic as well, and of course the charter presentation. So kudos there, kudos to the work that they've done, and really looking forward to the rest of the year as well. So HIGG, quick update as well. They kind of kicked off the year with Rotafit. Now, Rotafit, is an activity that has been going on for a while right now. And this is kind of a fundraising effort as well in terms of the training that they've been doing. But beyond that as well, they've kind of held a couple of meetings, for the club since the start in September. And to announce as well, they have launched their new logo, which looks pretty awesome as well. Definitely representative of the Hampstead area and London skyline. So it's definitely a club that with Craig as well as at his leadership, and pretty active and vibrant new members as well, to kind of support them in any opportunity that arises as well across London. Third is a quick update from Wandsworth as well. So, kind of started off the year with a couple of events as well to try and grow the membership, and promote, a couple of, what activities they've got planned for the year. They've also ran, a couple of club meetings as well. And the key message for Wandsworth as well is, if you're interested and if you're in the area or know anyone who is within the area as well, who is willing and interested in participating in Rotaract, do definitely give Joe Bradford a shout as well, because so she's the president and also kind of leading the club forward. So if you want to find out some more information about Wandsworth, give Joe a ding. And last but certainly not least as well is Westminster. So as you can see, a couple of events as well that have been held in September. So as usual, a couple of club meetings. They held a welcome party in Soho. Kind of the charity donations, to Oxfam, which I definitely took part in. Donated lots of clothes, which is a great opportunity to kind of clear my wardrobe as well. And it's the most recently held the fireworks just yesterday as well. So lots and lots of activities across London. In fact, in the last 2 months, a total of just around 30 events, that have been held. So definitely something that we should all be proud of, in the actions that we're taking and the service that we're giving to London and the community. So to wrap this up, I say, and the next session we would have the presidents of the clubs as well, kind of giving the updates of their respective clubs in terms of going forward, and also highlighting what events they would like to get to the front of your mind in terms of what is coming up in the future. So I'll move on and spend a couple more minutes trying to have a discussion around what the district's focus is this year. What are some of the services and the projects that we're doing, and then wrap up in terms of how we're going to get this done. And as I mentioned earlier, so any questions that you would have, please just note them in the chat function on YouTube, and I will, at the end of the presentation, come back to those questions and certainly answer as many questions as I can. So first of all, I say let's kick off with Rotaract London, our district. So the why. And I like starting off with the why because I think, in everything that we do, we certainly need to have a compass. We need to have a direction. We need to have a goal in terms of what we are aiming for. And I've put up on the screen right now what our shared goal is. And this shared goal is, part of the leadership training day that we had. We discussed around this goal with the different club presidents in London and also the board members, and came up with this in terms of, our focus really is to grow our membership across London. And we set ourselves a challenge to see if we can grow by double the number of, young professionals, who are in London, living in London, and participating in service, through our Rotaract network. So that's our shared goal. Now, in order to kind of achieve this goal of growing our membership, we've highlighted 3 key objectives. First of all, is to scale the impact that we make through shared projects. And I'll talk in more detail or show how we're going to achieve this objective. But this really is trying to see if we can, pull certain resources together through, either joint service projects, joint events, to really make a bang, in London, so that when we are trying to attract new members and trying to grow our club membership, the events that members are, going to be participating, or the projects they're going to be participating in, is going to, fill just not within the club, but also, to get that perspective that Rotaract, is across London, across the country, and also an international organization as well. So to get that sense of feeling that, the efforts that we put towards fundraising, for example, doesn't just, start and end in our clubs, but, permeates through the network. So I'll talk a bit more about, how we kind of focus our efforts towards achieving this objective. The second objective is around our visibility. As I mentioned, we've had, currently just simply in the months of, September and October, we've had almost 30 events, which is a substantial feat, given that we all have busy schedules, all have full-time jobs, still studying full-time, yet we're able to kind of carve out time for this. And I feel personally that, we can do a lot more in terms of getting both people, within, but especially people who are not, kind of consciously aware of Rotaract and Rotary in general, to increase, to make them more conscious about what we do, what we are about, and how, more importantly, how they can be a part of it and how they can help and contribute to this. So that's the real message of kind of the second objective. And again, I'll talk through a couple of projects that we've outlined to achieve this objective. Third, and certainly not the least, is the kind of equipping, our current members, our current board directors with the right skills for success. And these skills do not necessarily have to be focused just, in our service and volunteering time, but also these are skills that would be relevant for our respective, working life or studying life. And so these skills, is kind of a priority as well for us to make sure that our leaders and also our club members, are able to kind of use these skills, apply these skills, and also share some of the skills that they may have picked up as well, to ensure that, our projects, our events are very successful. So what I'm going to do now is talk through in more detail through these objectives, especially what projects have we kind of outlined, and give you a quick status update on where those projects are. So we call it the what. So as I mentioned, the first objective around kind of scaling our impact, there are 4 key projects that are tied to this objective. First of all is our District 1130 conference. Then we've got a joint service project, a mentoring program, which tries to kind of partner up new members with Rotaractors, with Rotarians. And finally, a transition program for, existing members who are, kind of at that phase in their Rotaract journey, who are thinking about joining Rotary, helping them through that transition. So the very first one is the District 1130 conference. Now, we've already put a date in the diary, so please do mark your diaries on the 10th of March, 2018. It's going to be a whole day event, plus, an after party afterwards, but it's going to be incredibly fun. We've got, of course, we'll have, updates from the clubs, but we've outlined a couple of speakers as well. In fact, we'll kind of hack a real life service project on the day as well and see what impact we can make with that. And as I mentioned, we'll kind of socialize afterwards. This event, the audience of this event, again, is not just limited to current Rotaractors, but please do invite, your friends who you feel, would benefit from the network, or who are keen and interested to do something as well beyond what they are currently doing. This conference promises to be fun and exciting, and also intense and busy. So definitely mark the 10th of March in your diaries for this event. And again, do share, this with your friends, family members who might be interested. The next one is a joint service project. Now, the current status of this is we're still in the phase of kind of brainstorming and coming up with, ideas that would meet, that would support this project. And the project, really, the objective for it is for, all clubs in London to have something that we are, a project or a service project that we are tied or bound together. Something that is not just going to be simply a one-off, but it's something that we are working towards, over a long period of time. And we could give the best example is, of course, the, End Polio program, which is a project that really ties Rotary and Rotaract globally. And this is a project that has run, for a substantial period of time as well, and we have stuck to it. So that is something that we are trying to establish here by having, a project that all our club members, if people want to say, what is Rotaract in London about? We want this, to be one of the beacons that people could point to, whether they've heard about Rotaract or not. They can point to this project and say, okay, this is the fantastic work that these guys are doing in London, and this is the impact that they are making to society. So as I mentioned, we're currently in the ideas phase, and I'll leave a contact detail towards the end of this presentation, in case for every single project that you've heard or that you will hear, if you're interested in participating or joining the team, please just drop us an email or drop us a message on our Facebook page, and we would most definitely be happy to point you in the right direction or connect you up to the team. So this is the joint service project. Then, as I mentioned, the Rota Buddy, which is a buddy/mentor program. Again, the objective of this, as I mentioned, we're trying to kind of grow our membership. So to partner up with new guests, we'll be able to kind of buddy up or have a connection to at least one Rotaractor who also have a connection to one Rotarian, and to make sure that that partnership, and that relationship is focused really to encourage participation in either service projects and or events, but to also share advice, on key skills that they would, be willing to either develop or to support, other members in developing as well throughout their Rotaract experience. So again, the stage that we are at this project is we're still at, again, also the concept phase. So if you are very, very interested in joining this project and willing to kind of help it grow and support the rollout of it, then again, please put your hands up and we can definitely get you connected to the team. The third project is the Rotaract Transition Program, Rotary Transition Program. And this program essentially, like as I mentioned, is to has two goals: to really increase the strength of the relationship between Rotaract and Rotary. So through, for example, having joint meetings, but also to prepare Rotaractors who are approaching or thinking, about kind of joining Rotary, to help them through that process as well. So, which Rotary Club do I join? What are the payment schedule, for example? When are the meetings held? So answers to questions like that. This program is trying to help make more visible and make more accessible as well to Rotaract members. So our second objective, which is around making visible our key actions, the voice and the presence that we have in London. We've got 3 projects that are aligned to this. We've got the Rotaract London TV, so which I mentioned is our YouTube channel. We've also got Rotaract Shop, and we've got Rotaguide. So I'll start off, first of all, just talking through Rotaract London TV. So Rotaract London TV, what is it? It's essentially a YouTube channel where we are trying to gather all the video content from events, from club projects, from fundraisers, from any activity essentially that involves Rotaract or involves a service element, to pull those videos together on our YouTube channel, so that members and also guests and also the public can have a look around what kind of activities do we do, what is Rotaract about, what is Rotary about, but also, to have a home to go to rather than searching and browsing through, lots of different pages and trying to find out, what it's all about. So that's the objective of Rotaract London TV. We would also, on Rotaract London TV, use that as the opportunity to kind of find, any of the TED Talks, for example, that would be useful for members, but also to find other projects that would also be a source of inspiration and share that as well with you guys. So, in terms of Rotaract London TV, my ask is that I've got 2 key asks. First of all, is to make sure that, whilst you're taking those selfies and whilst you're taking those photos during your club events and projects, please remember to hit the video button as well, because, we want more video content. But also, once you do that, please do share that with us as well, so that we can upload that on the YouTube channel. Road to Shop. So essentially, we have lots of merchandise that is either currently existing or not existing or in design phase. A good example is HAGG, for example, who now currently have a brand new emblem that represents more around their club. You can see our Rotaract London kind of emblem as well. And I know that Canary Wharf are also designing theirs, or in the process of designing theirs. Westminster is also kind of in the process of creating their own merchandise as well. So what Road to Shop, the objective for it is really to pull the design ideas, e-merchandise, things like Facebook cover pages, leaflets, promo material, to kind of pull that all together in a place where people can go on there. They can see, what merchandise has been used in the past as inspiration in case they want to create theirs. They can also, request for support in terms of creating their own online merch or online, leaflets, etc. But also use that as an opportunity to link to the right website, in case you want to buy the official Rotaract Club pins, in case you want to list, places to buy club jumpers or shirts or pens, etc. So Rotaract Shop is the project that is aiming to address that. And the outcome of this is that we would at least have some shared resource where we're able to pull together ideas, but also have and start building our own brand identity. So Road to Guide is not a new project, and but it's a project that is really cool, and we're planning to continue it. This is a project that essentially is a web blog that has the objective to kind of share tips, share ideas, share what are the latest trends in London generally. So this doesn't have to be specific to service only, but useful tips, useful ideas, useful guides. For example, you're looking for a new meeting space, or you're looking for free or cheap events, or venues to host your club events. You've recently moved into London and looking for tips and guides on how to settle in, how to set up an account, exact things like that. Or you're looking for where are the hubs to or volunteer hotspots, or places you can go to watch or listen to presentations or keynote speakers on certain topics. This is essentially, going to be the web blog for that, spearheaded by Caroline Boyden, to kind of pull that information together and share that as well. So you can keep abreast of, the latest tips, ideas, and trends across London. Okay, so the third objective, as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, is to equip our people with the right skills for success. And to do this, we have 4 key projects that we're running. First of all is leadership training, as I mentioned. The second is the academy. Third is this webinar, for example. And then last but not least is the Rotaract Hub. So I'll talk through, again, this for, to shed some more light on them. So the leadership training, essentially, we ran a session, at your gate on September 9th, earlier this year, with the club board directors. And this workshop essentially gave the club directors with a couple of tools to help them to define, what is the value proposition for their clubs, what are they planning to focus on, to set some realistic, smart goals and expectations in terms of, what are the time commitments they feel they can dedicate to service, but also to share some tips and links and updates as well on how to get inspired and lead your club. Now, that was, the first training, but we are taking this forward in the sense of if within your club, you feel you want a top-up training session, or you want to run this session again, either in your Rotaract club or in your Rotary clubs, we're able to, provide, more tailored such workshops or training, specific to your club needs. And again, this will be on a first come first served request basis. So if you feel within your club that you would need some support in terms of training, the leaders in your club, so either be your board members or your incoming new board members, this project aims to kind of address and focus on that. Now, Rotaract Academy, essentially, we have two core purposes for this. First of all is around advocacy, and advocacy in trying to encourage and in trying to promote the importance of service and social enterprise in London. And this is something that we do day to day, but I can count the number of there are lots and lots of young professionals in London who are just simply not aware or not actively taking part in service, and who could use this opportunity as as a fantastic opportunity to kind of grow and develop their professional careers even further. So this is an opportunity to advocate for increased participation in service from young professionals in London. Second objective also of the Rotaract Academy is to then develop a curriculum for service leaders. So think to the TED Talks of the world, think to the Coursera's of the world. This project essentially is kind of focused on trying to pull together, what are the useful insights, what are the useful tips, what are the useful training materials that if you're in a position of leadership in any service organization, be it either a Rotaract club or a charity in general, or if even within, your corporate organizations, within your CSR programs, to kind of pull together a curriculum, so that, service leaders can go through this and feel more empowered and feel more equipped, with the right knowledge and with the right processes and skills to help them be successful in this area. The third one is the webinar, and this is where we're on the webinar right now. So this is something that you are probably already familiar with in terms of your experience. But essentially, the webinars, we're planning to hold these webinars every month on the first Sunday of every month. It will be an hour long, and the format is as follows. We'll aim to spend about half an hour for clubs. So be it the club president or any other director within the club, to share progress on, what are the projects that are ongoing, but also what's kind of coming up as well, right? So what's coming up and what's, would they like to highlight in terms of activities from their clubs. And then the second 30 minutes, we will then invite a guest speaker to share, either, ideas or information or tips that are beneficial, to our clubs or to our professional careers as well. So we'll be looking to, kind of invite also, a couple of notable guest speakers on these webinars going forward. Again, the audience for these webinars is a public webinar, as I mentioned, and they are all they will all be recorded and shared on our YouTube page, the Rotaract London TV. And then fourth is our newly launched Rotaract London Hub. Now, this is the link to the Rotaract London Hub. So it's sites.google.com/view/Rotaract London. And so if you follow the link to this page, this will direct you to a couple of useful resources. Again, the target audience for this site is mostly the Rotaract board members or as well as club members. And what we have on this site, I will prepare a separate video to give you a demo of this site. It is a live site. You can access it now. And we will continue to provide, more content and more information on this site as it grows on further. Currently on this site, you could, get access to a shared calendar. If you're probably aware of how tricky it is to find events in Rotaract, that are beyond your club events. You either have to go to several club pages or check your events invites, etc., etc., etc. Now we have an online shared calendar where you could post your events on that calendar, but also see what other events have been organized by clubs, across both in London, but also in the whole of Europe as well, because we've also connected to the Rotaract Europe calendar. So there's a shared calendar there. There's also a space where we put, lots of useful tools. We put a link to, our project tracker, which is Trello. We also have tools in terms of, an attendance register for clubs. We also have our membership registration form, both for current members, but also for new members. All that useful information, all those useful guides will be hosted, on this our Rotaract London hub. So this will be our one-stop shop essentially for all information regarding clubs in Rotaract in our district, Rotaract London. So I've talked you through, why and so what are our goals and our objectives in terms of growing our membership. I've talked you through the what in terms of what are some of the projects that link to these objectives that we're trying to achieve. And now I'm going to talk you through the how. And of course, we're well aware that the how is the people, right? So each one of you who are either listening to this webinar or your club members or your club board directors, you guys are essentially the people who will bring this to life. So what we've done, as a leadership team, both from a district perspective, but also as a leadership team in terms of the club presidents, is to pull together, kind of responsibilities in terms of leading this project. So as I mentioned earlier, each one of these projects, if you feel that you would, you're interested and you're really keen to be a member or to contribute on any, either one or more of these projects, then these are the leaders as well who you'll be able to kind of contact to find out more information about this. In addition to the people who are going to be leading these projects, we also have a couple of services that we, the district, provide as well to help your club in terms of kind of managing your club, from a kind of events planning or planning projects or communications, etc., etc. And so I'll talk through kind of who are the people who are, leading the projects, but also what are some of the services that a district will provide to support your club. So our district leadership team, that's me, myself, Chike Adipita. We've also got Carla from HAGG. We've got Victor from Wandsworth, Caroline from Westminster, and Katie from Canary Wharf. And so the five of us essentially are a district team, and we are, we will be here to support you on questions you may have, throughout your year as a Rotarian or as a Rotaractor or as a club director. The presidents of the clubs, that we have in London, we've got Thomas Casson, who is the president of Westminster. We've got Craig, who is the president of HAGG. We've got Joe, who is the president of Wandsworth. We've got Lewis, who is the president of King's College. I've got Carolina, who is the president of Canary Wharf. Again, these are the presidents of the clubs as well as the district directors. These are the people who kind of make up, the one district organization. And, as part of this organization, we, will support the projects, but we also help to kind of find out, and share updates from our different clubs. So as I mentioned, kind of just here's a run through of who are leads and who have been assigned to certain projects. So as I mentioned, the leadership training, that's me myself. We've got the hub as well, so Mike Zedens as well, and Carla, who are responsible for those. We've got the webinar, so I'll be working with Victor to run and host your webinars. So the joint service project I mentioned, again, that's going to be all the district and club board members. The academy project, again, will be run by Katie and Joe. Then Rotary Buddy, again, this buddy program will be, all the district and club members who'll be running those. Now the Rotary Guide is currently being run by Caroline, and also will be supported as well by Carolina. The district conference, again, will be, run by all the district and club board members. London, so our YouTube channel, again, will be maintained by Craig and Victor. We've got Rota Shop, again, which will be led by Thomas and Aloise. And then the transition program, which will be managed by Mike Zedens. So as I mentioned, there are a couple of services, that we will provide to clubs. So in terms of kind of how to define what our goals and objectives are, and in terms of how to organize our clubs from a management perspective, so those services I'll be providing. Services that relates to how to improve our club communications will be supported by Joe. Services around how to improve our membership, again, will be supported by Tom. How to, easily organize projects will be supported by Carla. Events by Aloise. Learning and development by Katie. Marketing by Craig. Technology by Mike Zedens. And then finance by Carolina as well. So this kind of wraps up the district updates as well. So I've left, our district's email address. So that's rotaractlondon@gmail.com. Or our Facebook page, which is www.facebook.com/Rotaract London. So you could use any of these two channels to get in touch if there's a particular project or a service that you require or you're interested in participating in, or you want to join the team, or you have any questions. This is the best way to get in touch with us. So rotaractlondon@gmail.com or our Facebook page, Rotaract London. So as I mentioned, I'll answer, I'll kind of take a second to answer the questions, at the end of the webinar. I just wanted to quickly talk through our discussion topic for this webinar, which is how to retain new guests / prospective members. So this question was put to me quite recently, actually, by one of the presidents of the clubs, and the question was put in this way. We have lots of activities where we're trying to kind of garner interest from people who have either not had any knowledge about Rotaract. Some of these events are pretty successful in which we get a great turnout. Maybe a couple of those people who kind of come to those events, may come to a club meeting, but there is a significant, fall through rate from, kind of getting that initial guest at that event or that interest event, and converting them into a prospective member, in the light of making them a full member, in due time. So the challenge was really, how do we retain, or how can we retain these new guests, and prospective members. And really, I'm going to share 4 tips from my experience in Rotaract so far, of kind of building membership. But also, I really would, after this webinar, I really want to hear your thoughts and your comments around, how would you go about tackling this challenge of, making sure that those new members who come to the event do stick around. So let's call it the stickability of it. So here are my 4 tips. First of all, is to set clear expectations from the start of what you expect those people to be involved in and to be doing. The second is to get them quickly involved meaningfully in the project. And when I mean meaningfully, I don't mean just kind of attending on the day, but part of the process of actually thinking through it and planning and organizing the event or the project. The third is to, kind of assign a mentor or a coach or a buddy very quickly, who can start, developing their relationships and also developing the entry into the network more generally. And then the fourth is then to kind of open the eyes of these new guests to more groups as well, beyond simply just your club. So I'll walk through these 4 tips in more detail. So the very first one is around setting clear expectations from the start. And I'll give an example. So when I joined, Rotaract a couple years ago, over probably around 5 odd years ago now, my first meeting, was quite daunting actually. You turn up to a club event, which seems semi-formal, semi-organized, with a bunch of people who are already, know each other essentially. It's quite, quite challenging for a newbie to kind of join in quite quickly. But I remember at that meeting, there was a clear, description about an introduction into what was Rotaract about, what were we trying to achieve as a club, what was our focus, and then also what were some of the key activities and projects that members or guests could participate in, which kind of quickly leads me to my second tip, which at that very same first meeting for me, there was the opportunity to take a current member's spot to attend the Rotaract European Conference, so the UCO, in Milan. And that was clearly for me an opportunity to travel, an opportunity to get to know more about Rotaract, and that opportunity came during my first meeting. So there was already the hook for me, in the sense of this is an activity that is currently upcoming. Would you like to participate as a guest? And this is the opportunity to kind of get to know Rotaract and get to know a couple of members a bit better. So I definitely signed up for that right on my day one of joining Rotaract, and that got me hooked. The third, using the same story about how I joined Rotaract, was around the buddy, and mentorship relationships. So when I kind of came back from that trip to Rome for the UCO, I wasn't just kind of left alone. I was encouraged to make a presentation and to pitch to the club members about what did I learn, what were my experiences. But I didn't do this by myself. So I was supported, and I made the presentation in conjunction with someone else. And that person else, ended up being a very good friend of mine till today, and that's essentially was, kind of working together with that person to put together, a feedback report from the UCO in Rome. Was a great opportunity to kind of start building and developing a relationship. But also to try and find out, what are other club members, what do they do for a living, to kind of pique my curiosity and trying to develop my relationship just beyond, the club. Which then leads me to the fourth option was also when I went on that international trip. I was really amazed at the scale and the achievements of the different clubs as well through the best and TCA awards. So the best being the best European service project, and the TCA being the Twin Club awards. So just the sheer number of Rotaractors who were there, what they achieved in their clubs really inspired me. Now, when I came back to my club, Westminster, I was compelled to, kind of go beyond the activities that we had, rather than just sticking to our clubs, but trying to, learn more about, what are Rotarians doing in their meetings, and what kind of events and projects are they getting on? What are other clubs in London doing? And, trying to expand my understanding of Rotaract across not just London, but in the country and globally as well. So these are my first four tips. And again, all these activities, one right to four could be achieved, extremely very quickly. So 1 to 3 was done essentially on the day one of me attending my first meeting. So I definitely encourage you guys to follow these tips and apply them when you can, especially to help grow your membership for new guests who join. So thank you very much. I have spoken for a while right now. So as I mentioned, our next webinar, you would have, lots more, multiple speakers, not just me. And I'll take this opportunity now to look at the questions, either from YouTube, but also from the, the chat as well, to see, if there are any questions that would like to be answered in the last 5 minutes. So yeah, so just give me a second whilst I... Okay, so I'm on a live chat right now. I can see. So as Carla mentions, there's also a book drive that has been done for Hammersmith Hospital, for a reason that's up as well. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, so if I see no questions, I think that certainly means that, crystal clear Everyone's kind of, gets the gist and logic. I can see Roxana saying happy to help with L&D. Thank you very much, Roxana. But, sounds like, pretty crystal clear. Again, I'm going to be kind of reaching out to folks around support and help to deliver on these projects. So if you feel like, within your clubs, you have some new guests and you're struggling on how to kind of get them involved, hey, we have 11 projects that they can get their hands, busy and active with. Or if you feel like, you have some more tips or ideas on how we can, take some of these projects forward, I most definitely would like, your input as well on this. So I know we're coming up into our final last minute of this web hangout. And if there's no questions, I would give you an extra minute back in your Sunday. And I look forward to some more participation and also some more questions as well in the next webinar next month. But for now, thank you very much for joining and for participating on this broadcast. I wish you a very, very happy Sunday and a very, very good month ahead. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.